The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a fiduciary, fee-based financial planning firm serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is presented for information and entertainment only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed therein are not the opinion of Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, as you know, we'll discuss the latest news and info that Feds need to know in 15 minutes or less, sometimes 15 minutes-ish. So whether you're a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. So grab your coffee, kick back, unless you're commuting on 495 right now, and we'll tell you what you need to know, but might have missed from the week. We're your hosts, Katelyn Murray.
And I'm Dan Sipe.
Awesome. So, Dan, we have a pretty TSP-focused episode today for listeners. We're going to be taking a look at the good old thrift savings plan. And this is actually going to kick off what may be a series for us. We're going to kind of revisit some of the things that we talk about in today's episode to kind of give folks an idea of what are the kind of talking points around sticking with the TSP, maybe what are some options on doing something a little bit different. But before we dive into that, I do want to give a monthly recap of the June 2023 numbers for the TSP. So looking at fund performance there. In year-to-date, the C Fund continues to have the best year-to-date performance at around 16.88%. For the year, looking closer at those June numbers, C Fund had a return of about 6.61%. S Fund was around 8.31%. I Fund was at 4.57%. And G Fund was at 0.32%. F Fund was in the red with negative 0.36% return. Looking at the year-to-date numbers again, C Fund leading the pack with 16.88% return. S Fund, though, not too terribly far behind with 12.64% return. I Fund staying strong with a 12.16% return. G Fund with a 1.91% return, of course, and then F Fund positive for the year at 2.25%. So that's kind of where your TSP fund performance was for the past month and also year to date. Again, just as a reminder, I think our feds know this by now, but always good to put the language around it. We don't give you these numbers to be any sort of, let's go all for C Fund. Your TSP allocation is a very delicate thing, and it should be based on you individually and your goals, not necessarily performance. Past performance is not an indicator of future performance or future success. But we do just like to kind of give you those touch points so that you can talk about what the C Fund's doing around the water cooler with your colleagues. Be in the know.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Dan has some kind of an engaging piece of an article actually that we put out around the TSP and maybe some bigger global questions as far as where this fits into your retirement planning, different decisions that you can make. Why don't you tell us something about that, Dan?
Yeah, sure. We're actually pretty excited about this because a lot of our folks may know a number of our people are published in FedSmith. And in talking with Ian over there, one of the questions that he said was one of the big ones that they always get is, should I leave money in TSP or should I move it out? And this is very nuanced. So shout out to Wes Battle, who's on our team, who's tackled this article series, and it is going to be series 4 parts. So today is going to be a flyover. So we've got 7 on each side, 7 for stay, 7 for go. And I'm going to fly through those real quick. And then as the ensuing articles are published, we'll dive into those a little bit deeper. Took a little interesting spin on this, keep it fun. And it is based on the Clash song, Should I Stay or Should I Go? From 1981. So if you bopped to that in high school.
Oh yeah, no, yep. Go ahead. If you
bopped to that in high school, you're probably considering retirement.
There you go. You may well be. Fun story about that song, Dan. The day that Brexit was announced, I forget where I was going, but I got in my car. It was literally that day. I got in my car and it was perfect timing. It was one of those moments in life that was just so weird. I got in the car and cranked it up and that song started playing and I was like, oh, how funny. But yeah, perfect analogy, I think, for the TSP decisions that we'll kind of talk through.
Sure. And I want to be clear, this is not meant to give anybody advice.
No.
So don't run out and do stuff.
No.
Based on this whole thing. So fun little sidebar here. Mick Jones, Clash composer, once said of the song, it was our attempt to write a classic. And I think the creators of TSP probably began with the same lofty goals. So one of the things we're going to tackle is how much they may have succeeded or fallen short in that endeavor. So if everybody's ready, let's rock. So on the should I stay side, up first, TSP is relatively low cost. Still, it has increased. The costs have gone up as a result of the things they've had to build in, like cybersecurity and online access and mobile app and things like that. Those all cost money. So it has gone up, but I would still categorize it as a reasonably low cost defined contribution plan. So hear me now. If you're an active TSP participant under the age of 59 and a half, rest easy. It's serving your needs. So relatively low cost. 2, it's easy. So this comment is twofold. There are 5 core funds, so that's easy. The 10 life cycle funds, those are all mixes of the core funds. So you don't have to go through page upon page upon page of prospectus. And you know what I'm talking about, Katelyn, with a lot of private 401k plans. There's hundreds of pages of stuff to go through there. And also, for those of you who are feds, you're currently in TSP. So staying there is, well, easy. Okay. Another positive, target date funds, also called life cycle funds. This may seem like I'm double counting here because I just mentioned them, but not really. What it means with a life cycle fund is that you have an asset allocation. You're in all of the funds. And then further, the closer you get to your retirement date, they're going to constantly rebalance and realign to moderate your posture. Now, this does not mean I think the life cycle funds are ideal. Across the industry, I kind of feel they underweight in U.S. small cap. And considering that's the historical highest performing asset class, I think deliberate underweighting in it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I do consider that to be a plus within TSP. The G fund, it only exists in essentially one place, technically two, Social Security accounts and the TSP. It's unlike anything else. So I think that's a plus for TSP. Again, this doesn't mean I think that fund is ideal. So I don't want to hear the keyboards clicking of everybody moving all their money into G. This next one's going to be loaded. Actually, the next 2 are going to be loaded. But I try and be fair about this. I've been doing this for a very long time. I think the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board is a net positive for TSP. I think they are doing their level best to always advance it to be a state-of-the-art plan. Now, they do not get a lot of help from Congress sometimes. And I touched on this. I actually ranted on it in a previous podcast, so I'm not going to do that now. But I think the FRTIB historically has done a really solid job of trying to advance TSP and move it forward. This one, I can hear the keyboards clicking. I'm going to say the modernization of 2019 was a net positive. Now, yes, I know you lost historical stuff. I know you got on the phone for over 2 hours because of the website change. I get all of that. But the Improvement Act added desperately needed flexibility in withdrawals. Doesn't mean perfect. And it also added, and we'll debate this one for a while, it also did add the mutual fund window, which gives feds additional flexibility in sort of self-determination, how they want to deploy assets. So I consider that to be a positive. This last one, automatic RMDs. So if you stay in TSP and you reach your RMD age, let's say it's 73, and you forget to do it, they're going to send it to you. So there's no chance that you're going to get in a situation where you forgot to take your RMD. I consider that to be a plus. So that's 7 on the plus side. If you're looking for reasons to stay, there's some right there. Now, should I go? And some of these will seem like I'm being schizophrenic. So up first is TSP is not the lowest cost anymore. And for decades, I've been doing this pushing 40 years. So there was a whole long stretch where there was nothing even close. That is not the case anymore. Major fund families like Vanguard and Fidelity have index funds with lower expense ratios than TSP. Stop the keyboard clicking. I am not telling you to go there. I want to be clear about this, but that is a fact. Okay, flip side of easy, limited investment options. Now, by this, I don't mean the 5 index funds because I do think those are a solid base, but there are limitations within them that need to be addressed. Number one, the I fund is not a true international fund. In my opinion, a true international fund is you take the whole world and you pull the U.S. out of it. Then you've got an international fund. And we've covered this before. That's not the case with the I fund. I don't consider the S fund to be a true small cap because it basically picks up at the end of the S&P 500 and then goes another 4,500 after that. Now, yes, there's some small companies in there, but there's still some pretty big ones because number 501 is the next one that's going to go in the S&P if somebody stumbles. So I think that's a limitation. I think not having a global bond index in there is something of a limitation. So I do consider those, to my definition, being limited investment options. This next one, and again, it's going to sound like I'm being schizophrenic here because of what I said about Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board. TSP always seems to be behind as far as when it brings things in. You know, here we are in 2023 and we still don't have a true international fund. That's a long time. No emerging market fund in there. That's a long time. Okay. Roths were created in the late 90s. The first Roth 401ks were available in 2006. It didn't get to TSP until 2012. I understand that sometimes you've got Congress in there volleying things back and forth, getting in the way of the FRTIB doing their job, but it does mean that it takes things a while to get there. So I do consider that to be a little bit problematic. The mutual fund window, again, could be a net positive, but here's something that bugs me, and maybe I'm missing some. But it does not appear that you can see the fund choices until you actually open the doggone account and commit to moving money to it. I'm not allowed to do that. So I do think that's a bit of a whiff there. I'm cautiously optimistic they'll work on it so that people can see their fund choices in advance and make those types of decisions. Also, I think the additional fees make it a little bit less attractive. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so folks take a close look at that. Katelyn, you've already talked about those
on a prior episode for sure.
Yep. I do think that's a bit of a negative for it. Withdrawal options are still limited. Okay, again, we're on the private sector side of things. I can't imagine saying to one of my clients, okay, I gave you some money right now. Don't ask me again for 30 days.
Right. Yes.
I mean, I just can't.
It's crazy.
Now, again, that's a massive improvement over what it was. But that just sticks in my craw a little bit. It's your money. Okay, so if one of our clients came to us and said, hey, Katelyn, yeah, I need this withdrawal. And then they came back next week and said, oh, I didn't take enough. You're not going to say to them, I'll see you in 30 days. You're going to take care of it. So I think that's a little bit of an issue. One of the things we're seeing, especially when mutual fund windows come in, there's an opportunity to have some guidance, okay, to be able to talk through these things. Doesn't exist. So we just made it a little more complex, and there's no way to talk to somebody and really get any guidance in there. So I think that's a shortcoming, you know. And to round it out here, customer service can be a little limited here. And again, I want to stay balanced. TSP is in a tough spot. They have limited ways to bring in revenue, but they want to keep raising service, and service costs money. Okay. And we saw that. The challenges facing the 2022 rollout of the new website, you had wait times of up to 2 hours on 800 lines because there weren't enough operators. To their credit, they added them, but that costs money. So one of the things to remember, and this is not just with TSP, it could be a 401k with a private employer. They are set up to be somewhat efficient accumulation vehicles. They are not necessarily set up to be consumer care, consumer distribution vehicles. So I think that's another shortcoming. So, following the class, come on and let me know. Should I stay or should I go? We're not there yet. So stop banging those keyboards, trying to go do something. Stay with us. We're going to talk these things through because we want to be as fair and balanced about this as we can, because it is a big decision. But that's where we are on that. We're getting there. I think it's exciting. And again, thanks to Ian Smith, and kudos to West Battle for writing this. Excited to keep talking this through. Back to you, Katelyn.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for that overview, Dan. And we'll definitely look forward to kind of digging into more of those arguments on the stay side, also arguments on the go side, and just kind of exploring that a bit more as that series develops. I know that our feds will be really interested to kind of learn about both sides of that argument.
Sure.
I think that's actually all that we had on our docket today for discussion. Like I said, it was a pretty TSP heavy episode, but we will be back next week to bring you all the latest updates that you need to make informed decisions about your career and, of course, your financial well-being as a Fed. Now, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on our YouTube channel, also on Spotify. If you're a Spotify listener, we're over there as well. We also have another podcast called Fed Life, which is a little bit more longer of a podcast. So we get into the weeds a little bit more over there. Yeah, chewy. You can exactly much more chewy. Dan, you can get your Dan Site fix. Dan co-hosts that with another of our colleagues, Ed Zerndorfer, who is I don't have a problem saying he's the preeminent scholar on federal employee benefits. He's really made that.
I call him the guru.
Yeah, he's really made that his career, and he is also a former Fed, so he knows it inside and out. So definitely check that out. That podcast, again, is called Fed Life, one word, FED, Life. So subscribe to both the Fed15 and Fed Life so you never miss an episode. And please, 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 this is a big one, remember to share us with your friends and colleagues so that we can kind of spread that network and disseminate information about federal employee benefits better, more effectively. For more information on the topics covered in today's show and more, be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com. Subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, to get all the latest news for feds delivered straight to your inbox each week so you can read through that. And of course, if you want to dive even deeper into learning about your federal benefits and financial planning for feds, we encourage you to join us for one of our complimentary webinars. We do these all the time. The next one, I believe, that's coming up after this episode is released will be our Social Security benefits for feds webinar. That'll be on July 25th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the Eastern time zone. We also have Understanding Your Federal Retirement Benefits FERS. So overall, kind of very, very, very detailed overview of your FERS benefits. That'll be on August 8th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And our next TSP webinar, because I know we talked about TSP a lot. If you kind of wet your whistle on TSP, you can sign up on August 17th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Our colleague Ed Zerndorfer will be leading us in a TSP planning discussion that I think will yield a lot of useful information for folks. Of course, if you prefer a one-to-one approach, we are always available to kind of talk with you about your financial planning concerns, talk with you about your benefits. Feel free to reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation at askstws@stwserve.com. And I think that is all of the housekeeping for this week. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Fed15. I'm Katelyn Murray.
I'm Dan Site.
And you are Dan Site. And we will see you next week. Take care.